Hi everyone, my name is Liz Lorman, and I did my higher education interview with Mike Augustine. Mike is the current Senior Director of Advising and Retention, as well as the Dual Enrollment Academic Advisor at Georgia College and State University. Starting in January of 2019, Mike will begin his new role as the inaugural director of Georgia College's new Welcome Center. And a fun story is that I interviewed Mike on August 28th, and on August 29th, he found out about his new position. So the interview does not include any information about the new role, but I thought that would be a fun thing to share with you all. Mike got both of his degrees at the University of Georgia. He has his bachelor's in international business with a French minor and a master's in student personnel within higher education. When I asked Mike about his career path, he said that he really landed in higher education because while he was in his undergrad, he decided that business really wasn't for him, but he had gotten involved with yearbook and many other clubs, and that led him to be really involved with campus life. And so he decided he wanted to get his master's in higher education and student affairs. And so he worked within the campus life office as a graduate assistant. After graduating, he decided that he really wanted to go for admissions. And so he applied for jobs and got a job as the admissions recruiter at Georgia College, fell in love with it, stayed there for quite a while, and actually got promoted to be the director of admissions. And he stayed at Georgia College's admissions office for 17 years. Though once his daughter was born in 2008, that was a little bit too much travel for him, so he decided he wanted to move on to something else. And he applied to become the Senior Director of Advising and Retention, which is his current job. When I asked Mike about his satisfaction with his career path, he said, absolutely yes, he loves what he does and he couldn't really imagine doing anything else. Though when I talked about his current job, I asked him the best aspect and the worst aspect. The best aspect, he said, was when everyone works together and things turn out really well, which is really vague, but he gave the example of our ad drop week that happened this year, and it went very, very smoothly. We didn't have any big hiccups, and that was just nice to watch for him. He said that the worst aspect of the job was all of the time that he spends on personnel issues like working with HR, or if two of his staff members are arguing, he doesn't really enjoy working that out. I asked Mike if he had any future aspirations as his career path moves forward. And at the time, he said his biggest goal was to retire early so that he could become a house dad and spend a little bit more time with his daughter as she's growing up. Though, like I said again, he didn't know that he was about to get the new job, so we'll see how that goes. I also asked Mike if he had any advice for me because I'm just starting out in my career. I've only been working for about 2 months at this point. So he said, do something you love and do something you're passionate about. He also mentioned that I was really already doing this because he knows that I love student affairs and he knows that I'm working for my alma mater. So I really am passionate about what I'm doing. And he said that if I'm doing that, then it's not really going to seem like work. Switching gears a little bit, I wanted to tell you all about academic advising at Georgia College, which is where both Mike and I work. Simply put, our mission is to retain students and get them graduated as soon as we can, or at least on schedule. For staffing at academic advising, we have 5 clusters of majors, and these are each led by a lead advisor, and then it has a total of 20 academic advisors. Each one of those advises a major or 2, and they are responsible for working with the students within that major to get them right on their educational path and get them graduated on time. The advisors also teach the first-year academic seminars for our first-year students and get them acclimated to Georgia College. We also have Mike, who oversees the lead advisors and the staff as a whole. Then we have our director for Center for Student Success, who's also the associate provost. She oversees all of the Center for Student Success, which includes academic advising, the Learning Center, the honors program, and much, much more. Academic advising has changed a lot in the last several years. Since Mike started working at academic advising, it began as a small staff of only 3 advisors, and they only advised undeclared students. The goal was just to get them to pick a major, and then that was really about it. They didn't really like that, and so they switched into what they called lower level advising. So this is where they advised all majors, but only for freshmen and sophomores. Again, this still wasn't really what they were looking for. They still wanted to have more one-on-one time with the students. So they added upper level advising. Now they were advising all majors still, but at all levels, though the juniors and seniors were typically advised by faculty rather than a trained academic advisor. Finally, and where we're at now, we have a large staff of trained academic advisors who only advise a couple of majors, and then we are all centralized in one location and we do 4-year advising. So the idea is that as long as a student doesn't change their major, they will have the same academic advisor for the entire time that they're at Georgia College. I asked Mike about the status of advising, and he said that the biggest issue was that we have no assistant director. We've never had an assistant director, and in fact, we're the largest staff on campus that does not have an assistant director. So we're working on finding someone to fill that position, but it's going to be a big change for us upcoming. I asked Mike about the budgetary status of advising, and he said it was just the right amount, which meant that we spend about half of our money about halfway through the year. It really works well for us. But our biggest financial need is we need more money for travel and professional development of the advisors. We only have about $200 per advisor per year to send advisors to conferences or other professional developments, and he would really like to expand that budget so that we can really grow and develop as advisors. I asked Mike what the biggest accomplishment was that advising has done in the last 5 years, and he mentioned 2 things. One was implementing the centralized clustered advising where we're at now. He feels that it's a very strong, organized group. The second one is that we implemented a new program called SSC Campus. This is where we do all of our scheduling, and also advisors can leave notes about students after they've had meetings. It's a great system. Next, I asked him what the biggest difficulty was in the last 5 years, and again, he mentioned 2 things. The first one was that we gained a new division. We were formerly under enrollment and retention, and now we're under the Center for Student Success. And with that, we got our new leader and had to kind of adjust to being under this new division and being under this new leader. The other one that he mentioned was the high turnover that happened this past summer. We gained 6 new advisors in the course of a month. And so training all of that staff all at once was a little bit of a difficulty. And being one of those new advisors, it was definitely confusing to go through, but they did a great job in handling it. The big plan for the future that advising has is to start doing team advising, which is where a faculty member from a major, the advisor for the major, and a career advisor will work together to analyze data and figure out what the biggest issues in the major with those students are and get them on the right track. I asked Mike what the biggest issues in higher education were, and he mentioned several things. One of them was just governmental oversight and regulation, that there's always some sort of new rule coming out that we have to follow. We also always have the rising cost that students have to cover. But the thing that he really wanted to focus on was the culture that U.S. News and World Report has created. It's always about being the best and competing against other universities to be the best, rather than just focusing on making your campus the best that it can possibly be. You want to be the best in the country rather than just the best at what you do. He also mentioned that they really have created this environment of death by reporting, that we always have to evaluate and assess new things rather than just, again, focusing on how can we be the best on our campus and what can we do the best. So for my reactions, the first thing I wanted to bring up is why I selected Mike as my interviewee. I picked him because only a few weeks ago I started working for him, and I thought that this would be a great way to not only get to know my boss, but to also learn more about the career that I am just starting out in. He has so much experience, and I really wanted to hear as much as I possibly could from him. I, of course, would like to work for Mike and the advising department that he runs because I already do. I actively seeked out working for advising. When I was looking for a job right after graduation, I saw this posting and I knew that it was going to be the perfect job for me. Working for my alma mater and working one on one with students is something that I'm very passionate about. Lastly, my overall assessment of my experience is I thought that this project was a great way, again, for me to get to know my new boss and to get to know the career that I'm just starting out in. I really appreciated being able to sit down and chat with Mike for a little while and hear what's really upcoming for me and how I can grow as an advisor. I really appreciated that. And that's all I have as far as my interview with Mike goes. Thank you guys all for listening to my presentation.